Imagine your colleague, right? The one who started at the company on the exact same day as you.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, you know the one. They just landed the promotion you've both been grinding for over the past, 3 years.
Yeah, that is a tough spot.
Right, so you smile, you offer a handshake, you say congratulations, but down in your stomach, there is this tiny, undeniable drop of poison.
Exactly. It's visceral.
And you would probably rather confess to a felony than admit to anyone that it's there. We can admit to being angry, we can admit to grief, we can even admit to greed, but admitting that we are jealous.
Yeah, that's the ultimate taboo. It really is.
It's the ultimate taboo of the human experience. And today, we are looking at a text that basically wants to drag that ugly, hidden feeling right out into the light.
And honestly, admitting to jealousy requires a very specific, a very specific kind of vulnerability. Because it forces you to confront your own sense of inferiority.
Right. It's admitting defeat, almost.
Yeah, exactly. When you confess to envy, you are essentially confessing that someone else possesses something you desperately want, and their having it makes you feel inadequate. It is a profoundly uncomfortable mirror to look into.
And looking into that mirror is the core mission of today's deep dive. So welcome, glad to have you with us. We are examining a fascinating bilingual philosophical text titled, "There is no jealousy in the paradise."
It's a heavy one.
It really is. I need to warn you up front, this material, it does not pull its punches. It doesn't offer some, high-level academic abstraction about the nature of human desire.
No, not at all. It's very grounded.
Right. It provides a highly specific, almost surgical breakdown of our everyday lives. So we're going to analyze the text's vivid scenarios to help you identify the subconscious jealousy hiding behind your own daily reactions. And then we'll explore the text's incredibly demanding prescription for curing it.
Which is quite a journey. The author treats this emotion not as a mere bad habit or like a fleeting character flaw, but as a literal illness of the human soul.
An illness, not just a quirk.
Right. The text frames jealousy as a severe structural defect in a person's character.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can start identifying the symptoms in our own behavior, we really need to understand the underlying pathology. How does the source material actually define this disease?
Well, the language used is highly structural and, honestly, uncompromising. The text defines jealousy as a symbol of a flawed, non-material structure of life.
Flawed non-material structure, that's intense.
It is. It positions this emotion as a core defect in your spiritual architecture. It represents the ugliest side of human nature because of its immense, inherent destructive power. In fact, the source explicitly labels jealousy a poison.
A poison that destroys a person's immune system. That specific phrasing from the text really, really caught my attention.
Big, great metaphor.
Yeah, so the text is describing jealousy almost like an autoimmune disease of the spirit. It's generated entirely inside you by your own mind. But instead of protecting your ego, it turns inward, attacking your own spiritual immune system. It causes extreme mental exhaustion, draining your energy before it even remotely affects the person you are actually jealous of.
That autoimmune analogy captures the mechanics of the text perfectly. What's fascinating here is that the author asserts that jealousy is fundamentally a dark emotion.
A dark emotion.
Right. It operates best in the shadows, terrified of the light and of being exposed. When you keep it hidden, engaging in that silent, bitter comparison with that colleague who got the promotion, it exhausts the host.
It drains your vitality.
Exactly. But the text warns that this internal exhaustion is only the first phase, because when this emotion eventually bursts past the gates of reason, it explodes outward into the physical world.
And the text lists the physical manifestations of that explosion, right? Like hatred, fights, vandalism, hysteria.
Yeah, it gets really destructive.
It says that the moment jealousy enters the room, it instantly freezes any harmonious atmosphere. I mean, you can almost feel the temperature drop when someone makes a deeply envious, passive-aggressive comment at a dinner party.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone notices it. It creates an immediate atmospheric shift.
Right.
And the harm starts with the individual, manifesting as that mental exhaustion you pointed out. But as it radiates outward, it fractures the harmony of marriages, families, small social groups.
It's like a contagion.
It is. The text takes this to its logical conclusion on a macro level. This unchecked poison ultimately pollutes the entire society, driving human civilization toward ignorance and violence.
So if this spiritual autoimmune disease has the power to unravel both the individual and society, How do we know if we are infected?
That's the big question.
Because if it's a dark emotion that thrives in the shadows, human beings are likely masters at hiding it from themselves.
Ah.
I mean, we rarely walk around thinking, oh, I am consumed by envy.
No, we never say that.
Right. We call it something else.
Yeah, the subconscious mind is remarkably adept at disguising jealousy as a more socially acceptable emotion.
Oh, totally.
We rebrand it as righteous indignation or a demand for fairness or simply a sophisticated critique of someone else's taste or merit.
We build these elaborate intellectual defenses to avoid looking at the inferiority underneath.
Precisely. We don't want to feel small.
Which brings us to the core of the source material. The text provides a diagnostic checklist of highly specific, relatable, everyday scenarios designed to strip away those defenses.
And they are very relatable.
Let's start by looking at the material wealth triggers. The text asks you to imagine a simple scenario. You are riding a bicycle, you see someone drive past you in a car.
A very common occurrence.
Right, and if your face drops and you feel a sudden pang of upset, the text says that is the disease acting up.
And the text goes beyond just the silent internal reaction. It examines how we vocalize this disease. So imagine an acquaintance gets a promotion, buys a new house, acquires a luxury car, or suddenly comes into wealth.
Okay, yeah.
If your immediate knee-jerk response is to say, "So what?" or "What's the big deal?" the author flags that specific phrase. The dismissive, so what is the verbal symptom of the infection?
Oh, man. It is the ego deploying its shields. By downgrading their massive achievement to, no big deal, you relieve yourself of the painful obligation to upgrade your own sense of inadequacy.
Exactly. You neutralize the threat.
You don't have to feel bad about riding the bicycle if you convince yourself the car is meaningless. And the text doesn't stop at material wealth. It moves right into vanity and social triggers.
But they're even more subtle sometimes.
Yeah. It mentions seeing a smartly and beautifully dressed woman and instinctively giving her a contemptuous look.
That contemptuous look is a defense mechanism against feeling outshined.
Right.
The text also highlights the feeling of sudden isolation. Imagine being at a social gathering and someone else is captivating the room, receiving all the attention and praise.
The life of the party.
Yeah. And if you suddenly feel intensely lonely or unwell, even though no one has insulted you or excluded you, that physical discomfort is the jealousy manifesting, you aren't overtly angry, but the mere absence of a spotlight on you, while it shines on someone else, it hurts.
It's the feeling that praise is a finite resource. If they are getting it, I must be losing it.
Yes, a zero-sum game in your head.
And the text also points out how we try to minimize others when they receive public recognition. Like, if someone wins an award or even gets to meet the president and you scoff saying, a small reward is nothing.
Right, you're exhibiting a severe symptom. You are actively trying to shrink their reality so your reality feels bigger.
The text really forces you to sit with these uncomfortable moments. It also dives into the complexity of relationship triggers. It describes a scenario where you have a gloomy face simply because your spouse is having an engaging conversation with someone else.
Or feeling physically unwell when someone you love shows care or affection for another person.
The author even traces this back to the family unit, showing how childhood dynamics calcify into adult resentment. Like making excuses to be difficult, causing friction in the family, simply because parents gave a sibling more clothes, toys, or a larger legacy.
And we mask our reaction as a debate over fairness.
Right, we just act irritable. But the text argues the behavioral output, the tantrum or the cold shoulder, is just a mask for the core illness.
These scenarios are all deeply rooted in a scarcity mindset. Whether it is attention, material goods, or parental love, the subconscious believes that another person's gain is a direct theft from your own emotional bank account.
I mean, I am tracking perfectly with the bicycles, the dismissive comments at dinner parties, the sibling rivalry. I see the clear line of jealousy there.
It's very clear.
But I have to push back on one specific category of triggers the text lists because it feels like a leap.
Okay, which one?
The author brings up professional and intellectual triggers. It says that if someone writes better or more articles than you and your response is to hunt for their weakness and become hypercritical, that is jealousy.
Yeah, I can buy that. But then the text states, resisting new ideas, new theories, new methods, and new values is a sign of jealousy.
Ah, yes.
How does that work? If a coworker presents a new strategy at work and I reject it, how is that jealousy? What if the new strategy is genuinely just a bad idea? Are we supposed to embrace everything new just to prove we aren't envious?
That is the most challenging philosophical leap in the text, and it forces us to examine the psychological mechanism behind our resistance to change.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about when a new paradigm is introduced. What does it represent to the established order? If you are an expert who has spent a decade mastering a specific process, and someone introduces a completely new, disruptive method, that new idea is a direct threat.
A threat to what? My job?
A threat to your established status and your intellectual capital.
Ah, so my resistance isn't actually about the objective quality of the idea, it is about protecting my own relevance. Exactly. The text's core thesis is that jealousy is the acute pain of feeling inferior. Subconsciously, when you reject a new method or a new cultural value system, you are often jealous of the change itself, or jealous of the innovator introducing it.
Wow.
Because their new idea makes your hard-won, previous knowledge feel less valuable. It threatens the worldview where you are the authority.
Oh, okay, that is confronting.
The text is challenging you to perform a brutal self-audit. The next time you aggressively shoot down a new process in a meeting or roll your eyes at a shifting cultural value, you have to ask, is it a purely objective critique? Or is it your subconscious jealousy trying to protect your fading sense of importance?
That completely reframes the concept of intellectual stubbornness. It strips away the disguise of, rigorous debate and reveals it as status anxiety.
It is the fear of being left behind masquerading as expertise.
So, having looked into this diagnostic mirror, the dismissive so what, the contemptuous look at a stranger, the intellectual stonewalling, we have to ask the critical question. What is the root cause? Why is the human mind so quick to manufacture this specific poison?
The text provides a very direct etiology for this disease. It explicitly identifies the root cause of jealousy as narrow-mindedness combined with a profound, fundamental lack of self-confidence.
Which makes sense. If you possess an unshakable foundational confidence in your own value, your colleague's new luxury car, or your industry's new theory does absolutely nothing to alter your baseline happiness.
Exactly. Your ego doesn't need to defend itself because it doesn't feel under attack.
But because the vast majority of us lack that absolute confidence, we resort to this defense mechanism.
Right. The text describes jealousy as a sharp and underhanded knife. It defines its essence as inherently vicious and cruel, constantly lurking, waiting for every possible opportunity to diminish or put down the other person to equalize the playing field.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The text doesn't stop at calling it vicious. It escalates the severity of this emotion far beyond everyday pettiness.
It really dials it up.
Yeah, the source actually calls jealousy a quality of demon and states that harboring it is a symbol that one is walking towards evil.
It's very strong language.
I struggle a bit with that language. It feels incredibly harsh. Does the text truly imply that these tiny microaggressions, a frown at a passing car, a critical comment about a coworker's suit, are literally the gateway to true malice?
It does. The text takes a completely uncompromising binary stance on the morality of this emotion. Within its philosophical framework, there is no such thing as harmless jealousy.
None at all.
None. Because the root of the emotion is a profound lack of self-worth and the desire to see others diminished, any manifestation of it, no matter how social normalized or seemingly trivial, is viewed as a moral failing.
Wow, so it's fundamentally blocking you.
Yes, it is a fundamental block to any kind of spiritual or personal progress.
Yeah.
When the author calls it a quality of demon, they mean it is an energy that intrinsically seeks destruction rather than creation. It would rather tear down the beautiful house someone else built than gather the materials to build its own.
It is the ultimate expression of the zero-sum game. Like, if you win, I must lose. Therefore, I need you to lose so I can feel like I'm winning.
Precisely.
And the text is arguing that this specific mindset is spiritually lethal. Which brings us to the ultimate question. If we are walking around infected with a systemic autoimmune disease of the soul rooted in our own isolation and lack of confidence, what is the prescription? How do we stop the poison?
Well, the text grounds its solution in a bold theological premise. It states emphatically that there is no jealousy in heaven.
Okay.
It argues that anyone harboring even a tiny bit of this poison is absolutely ineligible to enter that state.
So a strict zero-tolerance policy for envy.
Exactly. Therefore, the goal is to remove it completely while you are still alive, a process the text refers to as cultivating oneself. But here is the critical structural pivot the author makes.
Okay, what is it?
You cannot cure this disease by closing yourself off from the world. You cannot eliminate jealousy by sitting alone in a quiet room, meditating, and trying to think positive thoughts.
I want to pause here and clarify something for you, the listener. As we detail this proposed solution, our goal is to objectively report the mechanics the author is suggesting. We are not taking a stance on the theological concept of heaven, nor are we endorsing any specific organizations.
Right, we're just analyzing the framework.
Exactly. We are examining the psychological framework the text builds to cure the disease. Because the author's logic is fascinating, jealousy is generated by interacting with a group, therefore it can only be cured by interacting with a group. It makes logical sense, doesn't it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the core mechanism of the cure. The text states that the only viable solution is to find a relatively perfect group and to live and practice collectively.
And does it specify what that group looks like?
It does. The author specifically names an organization called the Life Zen Academy as an example of this kind of environment, a collective where members supposedly genuinely rejoice in the beauty, talent, and acquired love of others.
That sounds almost impossible to find.
Well, the text even anticipates the reader's skepticism,
Yeah.
noting that people might not believe such a supportive, non-envious place exists specifically because their own inherent jealousy prevents them from comprehending it.
Oh man, it is the ultimate philosophical catch-22. Like, you reject the idea of my perfect jealousy-free group because your soul is too sick with jealousy to imagine it.
Yeah, they trap you there.
Yeah.
But if we look past the specific name of the organization and examine the underlying psychological logic, it aligns perfectly with modern behavioral science.
Really? How so?
If you want to stop being jealous of sports cars, you can't lock yourself in a cave where cars don't exist. You need the trigger present to practice the cure.
Oh, right. If we bring back the autoimmune analogy, the text is describing a form of spiritual immunotherapy.
Exactly. In psychology, we call it exposure therapy. If a patient has a severe phobia, a therapist does not cure them by helping them avoid the trigger.
Expose them to it.
Yes, they cure the phobia through controlled, deliberate, and gradual exposure to the very thing that causes the fear. The text argues that spiritual immunity to jealousy is built the exact same way.
By forcing yourself into a collective environment, you strip away your ability to hide from your triggers. You are forced to confront your narrow-mindedness daily.
You literally have to sit in the room while someone else gets the praise,
Oh.
while someone else wears the beautiful clothes, while someone else writes the brilliant article that makes yours look mediocre.
And the cultivation requires more than just silent tolerance, right? Like, you can't just grit your teeth.
No, not at all. You have to actively practice celebrating their success. You must observe the friction in your mind, recognize the poison rising, and consciously choose to rejoice for them instead.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. You have to stay in the group environment, continually confronting the triggers until the subconscious reflex to feel inferior is completely overwritten. If you choose isolation, the disease merely goes dormant.
It waits quietly in the dark for the next time you see a colleague get a promotion, and then it flares up all over again.
Exactly.
I want you, the listener, to really put yourself in that scenario. Could you do it? Could you sit at a table every day with the person who has everything you want and genuinely train your brain to celebrate them until you feel absolutely zero resentment?
It's a huge ask.
It is an incredibly demanding prescription. It means deliberately leaning into the exact situations that make us feel the most vulnerable and the most inadequate, forcing our brains to rewrite the script from "so what" to genuine joy.
It requires a devastating amount of honesty.
Yeah.
You cannot begin this collective cultivation until you first admit that you are, in fact, infected with the poison.
You have to look at the dark emotion before you can expose it to the light. So, tracing the path we've walked today, we started by defining this hidden poison, this flaw in our non-material structure that exhausts our own minds before it ever hurts anyone else. And we held up the text's uncomfortable mirror to our daily reactions, that quick, hot flash of annoyance at a passing bicycle, the bitter gripes about a sibling's inheritance, the defensive eye roll when a coworker gets promoted, and the stubborn intellectual stonewalling we use to protect our status from new ideas.
All those everyday symptoms.
Right. And we learned that recognizing those tiny, ugly flashes, not as harmless quirks, but as an actual illness of the soul, is the very first step. Because according to the text, we cannot retreat into a cave to heal.
No, isolation doesn't work.
We have to engage with the world, expose ourselves to other people's successes, and actively practice celebration until the envy dissolves. So what does this all mean?
Well, it is a rigorous lifelong path, and confronting this text leaves us with something deeply provocative to consider. regarding human nature.
Let's hear it.
The author insists we must completely eliminate every tiny drop of jealousy to reach a perfect state, or heaven. But if you manage to completely remove your subconscious jealousy, if you entirely eradicate that sharp, painful sting you feel when someone else achieves the greatness you desire, do you also risk losing your competitive drive?
Oh, wow.
Right? Is it possible for a human being to be purely ambitious, to push the boundaries of innovation and progress without a tiny drop of that dark poison fueling the fire?
It is a terrifying thought that the very thing poisoning our spirit might also be the engine pushing us forward. Can we have ambition without the disease? Something for you to chew on this week. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning those quick reactions, keep examining the hidden structures of your mind, and we will catch you next time. And remember, the next time you see a stranger driving a nicer car than yours, pay very close attention to what your face is doing.